and welcome to your English news broadcast live on ERi-TV. It's exactly 10:30 p.m. on Eritrea's local time from our headquarters at Asmara with your domestic and international news in brief. I'm Zahra Badori, but first we'll begin with your major headlines for this broadcast. Minafhe College of Science graduates 193 students. Activity assessment meeting in the northern Red Sea region. U.S. inflation jumps to 9.1% in June to fresh 4 decades high. Mexico to spend $1.5 billion on modernized U.S. border. Welcome to your domestic in brief. In its 15th commencement, Minafhe College of Science graduated 193 students, out of which 54% are females in degree programs. The graduatees include 56 in chemistry, 52 in biology, 28 in statistics, 24 in mathematics, 18 in geology, and 15 in physics. Speaking at the occasion that was conducted respecting the guidelines to curb the spread of COVID-19 pandemic, Professor Eritrea, Dean of the college, indicating that developing human capacity is the cornerstone for development and prosperity, said that the substantial investment the government of Eritrea is making towards education attests to that effect. Congratulating the graduatees for successfully completing their education, passing through the challenges due to the COVID-19 pandemic in the past 3 years, Professor Eritrea called for diligently serve their people and country with the knowledge they have gained. Minafhe College of Science from to the year 2008 to the year 2021 has graduated 2,589 students in degree, while 778 students in diploma and 91 students in certificate. The northern Red Sea region conducted a meeting on 12th and 13th of this July in the port city of Massawa with a view to review the implementation of development programs in the past 6 months. According to reports presented at the meeting, potable water project with a view to ensure water supply in remote areas in the region have been put in place. Potable water projects that have been damaged due to various reasons have been renovated, as well as water reservoirs and water diversion schemes have been conducted, indicating that due to low rainfall coverage in the region in the past year, agricultural productivity has been satisfactory. The report indicated that about 7,500 quintals of animal fodder has been distributed to the subzone, aimed at saving lives of the livestock. Furthermore, the reports noted that training programs have been organized to traditional artisan fishermen. Effort is being also exerted to conserve biodiversity in coastal areas and islands, and successful elections of area administrators and managing directors was also conducted. Activities implemented in the sector of health and education was also presented at the ministry at the meeting by the concerned heads of institutions. The participants of the meeting conducted extensive discussion on the reports presented and adopted various recommendations. Speaking at the event, Mr. Kubrom Anda Mikhail, managing director of the region, said the ensuring potable water supply, renovation of water diversion schemes, water and soil conservation, construction of micro dams, as well as planting tree seedlings are programs for the coming 6 months. Proceeding with your domestic, training on social sciences has been provided to over 50 students from the subzone of Foro, Massawa, Sheb, and Gindar. According to Mr. Takhla Zara, head of the National Union of Eritrean Youth and Students in the northern Red Sea region, the training that has been organized in Gindar from 30 June to 4th July included concise history of Eritrea, significance and objective of cadre, pillars of the national charter, as well as basic ideology, indicating the objective of the training was to develop the overall awareness of the youth. Mr. Takhla said that similar training programs will be organized in other subzones of the region, reminding the trainees to transfer the knowledge they have acquired to their peers. Mr. Saleh Ahmeddin, chairman of the National Union of Eritrean Youth and Students, called on partners and other stakeholders to reinforce participation in the effort to develop the overall capacity, that of youth. Mr. Yahayish Gabrasilase, managing director in Ginda subzone, on his part called on the students to equip themselves with the noble societal values and awareness of and reinforce the participation in the national development endeavours. On your final domestic and health report, 8 patients have been diagnosed positive for COVID-19 in tests carried out today at testing stations in the central region. On the other hand, 1 patient who has been receiving medical treatment in hospitals in the central region has recovered fully and have been discharged from the facility. The total number of recovered patients has accordingly increased to 9,702, while the number of deaths stands at 103. The total number of confirmed cases in the country to date has increased to 9,852. Ministry of Health, Asmara, 14th July 2022. Stay tuned for your global report after this short interval. And on your global report, U.S. inflation roared again to a fresh 4-decade high last month, likely strengthening the Federal Reserve's resolve to aggressively rise interest rates that risk upending the economic expansion. The Consumer Price Index rose to 9.1% from a year earlier in broad-based advance, the largest gain since the end of the year 1981. Labor Department data showed on Wednesday, however, the widely followed inflation gauge increased 1.3% from a month earlier, the most since 2005, reflecting higher gasoline, shelter, and food cost. Economists projected a 1.1% rise from May and an 8.8% year-over-year increase based on the Bloomberg survey medians. This was the 4th straight month that the headline annual figure topped estimated. The so-called core, the CPI, however, which strips out the more volatile food and energy components, advanced to 0.7% from the prior month and 5.9% from a year ago, above forecasts. The S&P 500 index opened lower, while shorter terms Treasury yields rose a dollar strengthened. He also read hot inflation figured reaffirms that price pressures are rampant and widespread throughout the economy and taking a bigger toll on real wages, which are down the most ever in data back to the year 2007. The inflation data will keep Fed officials on an aggressive policy course to rein in demand and add pressure to President Joe Biden and congressional Democrats who support the slammed ahead of midterm elections. On your final report, Mexico's President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador says his government will spend $1.5 billion on modernizing his country's border with the U.S. He made the announcement after he met with U.S. President Joe Biden at the White House. In a joint statement, the Mexican president called for a bold program to deal with the record number of migrants crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. The two men also said they would step up the fight against drug trafficking. However, U.S. President Biden had earlier described the flow of migrants as a shared hemisphere challenge. Since he took office, there has been a record influx of migrants crossing into the U.S. country from its southern border with Mexico, with more than 2.8 million arrests made during his presidency. The meeting between the two leaders came a month after Mr. Lopez Obrador refused an invitation to attend the U.S. hosted Summit of the Americas, saying he would not go unless the Cuban, Nicaraguan, and Venezuelan presidents were also invited. Mr. Lopez now shows at the summit was a low point in what have been sometimes tense relations between the two leaders. But on Tuesday, Mr. Biden described Mexico as an equal partner and told his Mexican counterpart that, in quotation, despite the overhyped headlines we sometimes see you and I have a strong, productive relationship, unquote. Dear viewers, that is all for now with your domestic and international news in brief. Until we are back with some more news, stay and enjoy the rest of our programs. But until then, these were your major headlines for this broadcast. Mainafhe College of Science graduates 193 students. Activity assessment meeting in the northern Red Sea region, and more on your domestic. On your international, U.S. inflation jumps 9.1% in June to fresh 4 decades high. And last but not least, Mexico to spend $1.5 billion on modernizing U.S. border. Thanks for watching once more, and have a nice one.